Today was the day the Stranger Things 5 trailer dropped this morning. It was so amazing. Me and my dad watched it promptly after it came out, and oh, is there so much to discuss? There is so much to discuss, so let's break it down now.
Running up the road, running up the hill.
That's just a glimpse of my side hustle and future career as a professional beatboxer, rapper, and DJ. So thank you. Please book me for an event. I would love that. And let's talk about this trailer. Yum! Okay, so trailer starts. Picture this library in the upside down. We see the next shot, Demogorgon, kind of like kind of bowing, and behind him is Vecna, but not the new Vecna we see at the end of the trailer. It's the old Vecna from season 4 and presumably how he looked before season 4. This leads me to believe that this is going to be a flashback of Will from season 1 when he went missing and possibly when he met Vecna, because why would we be seeing Vecna in his old form if his new form is from when Nancy, Steve, and Robin were shooting and flaming him up? Then it would be his new form. So I'm thinking this is a flashback. We know we're going to get Will in the Upside Down flashbacks, and I'm super excited to see that because I think his character was a little pushed to the side the last 2 seasons, and he needs a little boost. And this trailer makes it sure seem like he's going to get one. All right? Then after we get through those shots in the Upside Down, we see Dustin going to school. He's wearing a Hellfire Club shirt. So he's clearly still really mourning Eddie. He's still really dealing with that, and he's representing it outwardly, which I feel is probably not going to be a very popular thing that he's doing this season with the general town. Could lead to some really interesting developments for him. Then after that, we get this wide shot of the town, and Mike and Eleven are having this conversation, and we see, the military lockdown, especially in the downtown area. At the library, we see the gate on the side of the library, like if you really look at the image closely. Then it shows a gate outside of the town, presumably like the furthest outside gate. And there's guards guarding it. There's fences. There's a watchtower. And then it shows over this voiceover that's happening with Mike and Eleven talking. It shows Joyce going down into the tunnels from season 2. There are other people with her, but I can't quite tell who they are. And then it shows Nancy, Robin, Jonathan, and Steve at the WSQK radio station, which is going to be a major place this season. It's Robin and Steve's new job. The thing they've been doing the last couple seasons of Robin and Steve are starting a new job. They're doing that again. It's the radio station, and that's their operations hub for this season. And it's showing Nancy opening this secret door in there, which I'm assuming leads to the underground tunnels that they might be using to travel around under the government's noses. Very smart. Love this gang. Then there's a shot of Hopper and Eleven in the Upside Down doing their classic Hopper and Eleven things. And I'm loving that. I love that duo. I missed them last season, so I'm excited that they're really going to lean into that because it is one of the better duos in the show, I would say. Then we get these shots of the kids all gathered around a table. It shows both sides, and then it zooms out, and Mike's kind of giving them this pep talk about, like, this is our last chance, that kind of thing. And around the table, you can see it's Robin, Jonathan, Steve, Nancy, Joyce. I think I see Will, Dustin, and Lucas. That's kind of what I'm seeing. My screen that I'm looking at them's on at a little slant. But interesting that Joyce is with them. I love the scenes where Joyce gets to be with the kids, and she's really been robbed of that the last 2 seasons, so I'm gonna really look forward to that a lot. Then we get this awesome scene of Elle taking flight. It's really more of a super jump, not her flying, but everyone's gonna be saying she's flying because that's basically what she's doing, and it is so cool. I'm so excited to see how her powers evolve this season. Then we get a shot of someone in the WSQK van driving up to the radio station. It gives us a cool, clear shot of what's happening, and we can see that radio tower from the shot where Robin's staring up at a radio tower and the mind flare particles are wrapping around it. So it's good to know that that tower is directly right on the radio station and not like out in a field somewhere. Then we have this really interesting shot of Joyce and Mike, which I'm actually super excited about because I think the character that's been getting snubbed the most in this marketing so far is Joyce. She's hardly been in anything. Hopper too, but really Joyce, I'm like, if her kids are so central to this story and she's such a big part of the show's original success, where's my Joyce content? And I'm loving this. It looks like Mike walks into a room at the radio station and she's praying, which is so real. Like, hey, if that was all going on in my life, I would be praying too. And have been. So that's interesting. It looks like there's someone laying on the couch behind her, and I think it might be an unconscious Will. And then Mike kind of stumbles across the scene. Then Elle has a line about how this isn't like their games. This isn't like Dungeons and Dragons, and it's showing us a game map with some pieces on it. And the boys are in the woods at that picnic table scene that we've seen, the original 4. Then Will kind of walks away from the group, presumably has a chill on his neck and is looking off like classic Will. So something's amiss. I do wonder at what point in the season this is. I just can't really tell about this scene, but it seems to be earlier rather than later to me. Then we get a little shot of Elle and Mike talking to each other. Elle's kind of in a wetsuit, so she's going to be doing some piggybacking, it seems. And it just seems like they're having a real conversation about how high the stakes are this time, and I love that kind of thing. And it's very tender, very emotional. Then, my Shayla starts to appear. Nancy Wheeler as head of Nancy Wheeler Nation. I'm loving how much content there is of her in this trailer. They said, we're going to feed Nancy Nation, and they did. So we get this shot of Jonathan and Nancy looking up at this rift opening. It looks like a gate, but it's kind of surrounded by electricity, kind of like the Russians machine in season 3 had. And so it's really interesting. I'm wondering what's happening here. And then it gives us the other perspective of that scene where they're both looking up at it and the lights going crazy. Much to consider, much to think about. And I'm just really interested in this scene overall because neither of them are tattered or torn at all yet, and we don't really know where they are. It seems like they're in Hawkins' lab or some military thing, and there's this white goop behind them. It's just such a unique picture, and it doesn't really reference other things that we've seen in the show before, so I'm very interested to see what's happening here. Then we get that shot of Robin looking up at the radio tower with the Mind Flayer particles like I talked about. It's classic. I'm really interested to see what that's going to be about. I do think that Robin's role this season will be kind of the operations manager of this radio station. I think that she, unlike Steve at the video store, I feel like she probably is kind of going to take center stage in this job. She's the radio jockey, that kind of thing. Excited to see that for her. Then we get a shot of her and Murray outside this radio station yet again, and there are these gates opening up on the ground, right close near their feet. So it seems that maybe some monsters are going to come out of there. Vecna's going to send some monsters after them, because what I'm assuming is whatever they're doing at the radio station, maybe they're emitting some sort of frequency. It's messing with him, and so he's going to try and kill Murray and Robin in this scene, and I think this might be the beginning of a scene where Murray might die. That's just my little theory. Then we get another shot of Nancy, and Nancy has a voiceover over this section of the trailer, and she's saying something about how Vecna wants to torture them. He really wants them to suffer, and then he wants to take over the world. And it looks like, to me, she's in a hospital during this scene, and she's wearing that same pink sweater without all the stuff over it that she was wearing in the shot, which we'll talk about in a second, where she's washing blood off her hands. So what I'm theorizing right now about these shots is that this part in this outfit stuff takes place in a hospital after what we will see in a minute with Karen and Holly Wheeler. Then we get the shot of Nancy washing the blood off her hands, and I think it's Karen's blood. I think what's going to happen in that scene is I think that they will find Ted being eaten by a Demogorgon or something along those lines. Super traumatizing. Holly runs to her mom. They're fighting and evading these monsters. Super scary. Holly gets taken and goes missing, and Mrs. Wheeler doesn't die but gets super badly injured and hospitalized. So I'm thinking that this blood scene is Nancy washing blood off her hands because she was in the ambulance with her mom, and that's why she would have her mom's blood in her hands, because she found her mom and got that. Like, people are like, why would she have blood on her hands at a hospital? So I think that that's kind of what's going to be happening here, and that's very interesting. But yeah, I do think that this shot is a little bit like bait for us. It's like, oh, whose blood's Nancy washing off? And it's not Steve, it's not Jonathan. I think it's her someone in her family, or if not, I think it's a vision. Then we have this horrifying shot of Dustin and Steve hugging each other and crying. Dustin looks particularly distraught, but it looks to me like they're both very sad and crying. And I'm trying to think about what people might die to elicit this reaction, because what's happening here really truly does look like a death, a reaction to a death to me, because it's very, very emotional, and there could just be a super emotional scene between Dustin and Steve. That could totally happen. But to me, what would make more sense is that this is them reacting to, I want to say Nancy. I feel like they both have a bond with Nancy. Nancy and Dustin have a kind of special bond. She's gotten to do a lot of storylines with him, and she's always said that he's her favorite of Mike's friends. And obviously Steve would be so distraught over Nancy dying. And they might not even be dying. They could also just get separated, like in the Upside Down or something, and like with no way back to them. And that could be very traumatizing and scary. But yeah, this shot's very interesting. I've seen a lot of people talking about it, and I understand why. Then we get such a cool shot of Elle running across this lab, like the roof of this lab, and there's like glass panes, and she's sliding across them in her outfit that's kind of giving like homemade superhero suit vibes. Super cool. I love it. Um, Now I think we know that there's a lab in the right side up, obviously around the library in Hawkins, but there's also allegedly a little lab encampment by the gate in the Upside Down side. I don't know if that's true. I just saw someone say that on TikTok. And so, like, from this trailer, they were piecing that together on TikTok. And if that's true, I think this might be the one on the Upside Down, just because of how the sky looks. But I'm not sure, and it seems like they're not really giving us that information to know if we can be sure or not. Then we get a shot of Hopper and Elle inside the lab. I'm assuming it's the same one that she's running across the roof of, and he's, infiltrating from the outside or something. Very interesting, and she's gearing up to use her powers. She's tensing her fists, and then she kind of goes, "Oh!" And it cuts to this shot of, I think it's Upside Down Hawkins Labs. That's what I think the building is, but I'm not positive. But I think that's it. And it's emitting this like red pulsing beam, and then the beam, as it goes out further, turns blue, and it shows Hopper looking up at it. So I have two theories about this. One, I think that it's not the scene that they just paired it with. When Elle goes, "Oh," this is not the result of that, because Hopper's standing directly next to her when she does that. So he wouldn't be able to look up at it and see that above them, because I'm assuming wherever this pulse is coming from, she would be at the center of it if she was causing it. But it might just be at a different moment in the show, and she might still cause this. I actually think that this is matched up with that scene, or that sequence at least, maybe that episode even. I think that this is going to be Dustin, Steve, Robin, Nancy, Jonathan in the Upside Down doing something at Hawkins Labs that ends up emitting that beacon, and then Elle and Hopper see that, and it helps them on their mission of some sort. I don't really know what it is. It's very magical looking, but it still also kind of looks technological. I don't know. It's very interesting. Definitely one of the more interesting shots of the trailer. Then, oh my goodness, my JNC heart is beating. Be still. There is this super scary shot of Nancy and Jonathan, and they're both crying. They're both wet. They have their foreheads pressed against each other, and I'm scared. What's that thing Addison Rae said? "Boyfriend, I'm nervous." That thing, yeah, that's how we should all be feeling about this scene, because what is going on here? They look distraught. What it really looks like is they both know that they're about to die, and they're accepting their fate, because they're kind of like smiling a little bit. Like they're not like, oh, they're like, oh. Like it's just a very different emotion than what it kind of looks like at first, and I just don't know. I just don't know what's happening here. I'm super nervous about it. I can't with them. Then we have another scary shot of Lucas in the underground tunnels, and a gate opens. A Demogorgon comes through and is attacking him, and there's no one around to help him. What is he gonna do with this? I'm scared. I hope he has a slingshot. Don't know that that'll do anything, but could be a fun callback at the very least. Then, once again, Nancy in this trailer, because she is all over this thing. She is in some sort of tank. It looks like she's popping out of the top of something. It could be like the radio van. They could equip it for battle or something. That could be fun. But she has an AK, and she's shooting it not at monsters, at people. Nancy, what are you doing? I think there's some sort of guards that must be in their way, but very fascinating that that's happening. The evolution of her action starness should be studied. But yeah, it shows her shooting that. Very cool. Very cool sequence. Then we get Dustin looking up, and the lighting is the same as that scene with Nancy and Jonathan looking up at that gate. And I don't think he's in the same place, but I think the same thing's happening. Some sort of rift or gate is opening above him, and he's looking at it. And then we see that in this scene, he is with Nancy and Jonathan, and it looks like Steve is standing behind him. And so they're all looking up at something. And actually, I think I changed my mind. I don't even actually think this is them looking at a gate. I think they're outside in the upside down, and they're looking up at more some sort of weather anomaly, because that's what it looks a little bit more like to me. And then it cuts to a scene of that like Dimension X upside down with the floating rocks like we saw in the Vecna flashbacks in season 4, and someone's falling through the sky. And I saw someone enhance this image a lot, and I think this is Holly Wheeler. I'm not positive about that, but like after seeing the enhanced image, that's who it looked the most like to me. I could also see this being Will, or it could just be another Vecna flashback. All would be interesting. All would be welcome. Then this shot is also scary. We have Jonathan, Will, Dustin, Lucas, Mike, and Eleven doing a group hug. It's weird to me that Jonathan's in the middle of this group hug, and it looks like Vicky is standing in the background. I can't tell exactly who it is, but it looks like Vicky to me. And Will's wearing a different outfit than we've seen in anything else, but we know it's him because in some of the behind the scenes footage, he's been wearing this sweatshirt. And so this seems to me to be after they get Will back from a scary situation, and that's why Jonathan's included in this group hug. But it's also weird to me how central Jonathan is to it. Like, Elle's hugging Jonathan, not Will. Mike's hugging Lucas, not Will. Like, it's just like interesting to me, this format, and that they're all hugging. So whatever just went down is bad, but I'm glad they're together. Then we get our only shot of Erica in this trailer, but she's been in a lot of the other promotions, so that's actually okay to me, even though I love her. And she's looking cool. Sorry. She's looking really cool. She's at the school, which we've seen her in a lot of this behind the scenes stuff. She has stuff going on at the school. So I'm excited about that. Excited to see what she has this season. I hope she has a bigger role than season 4. Then we're back to Jancy, Jonathan and Nancy. They're in the radio station van, it looks like, or maybe that car that we see in the next scene of the trailer. But Nancy says, "Do it," or she says like, "Go for it," or something. And then we see that car driving through the fence, which is a shot that was in the last trailer. And then after that, it has a super cool shot of Elle using her powers against like rubble. It looks like Vecna might be throwing like some rubble at her, and she's like moving it around herself. It's so cool. I think this might be one of my favorite shots in the whole trailer. And then after that, it cuts to a bunch of guards in a room, and the windows shatter. I'm assuming Elle does that, or maybe some sort of device does it, but they all hit the ground. And it doesn't look like they're hitting the ground to be safe. It looks like they're hitting the ground because their life is lost. So that's interesting. Then, more scary images. This should have a scare warning because I'm scared. I'm looking at these things and I'm scared. Lucas is holding Max, boombox in hand, presumably playing Running Up That Hill, and a Demodog is running after them. They're in a hospital. It looks like hospital elevator, and Max is in her hospital clothes. And then it cuts to that shot I was talking about of Holly and Mrs. Wheeler. Holly is running towards her mom, who is laying on the floor wet. It's interesting. So what I think is going to happen in this scene, this is kind of my assumed pattern because of what we've seen in other trailers, is that I think that Ted will die here. I think he'll get eaten by some sort of creature, like I said. And then it looks to me like Holly is going to discover that Mrs. Wheeler will have been in the bath. They'll try to do something. It won't work, so then they go to the bathroom and they hide in the bathtub together because we've seen the shot of them under the water with, it looks like a Demogorgon above them, like yelling, and they're like trying to stay still. So I think that that's kind of the general pattern of the scene. Then we have Linda Hamilton's character shooting a gun. Interesting. Then we get that same shot of Mike protecting those kids with Joyce and Will behind him, but this time it keeps going, and a Demogorgon jumps up behind them and goes, ah! And it is scary. It is scary. I'm loving the stakes here. And then there's a huge explosion at that military base, it looks like. Very cool, very cool. There's a shot of a soldier's gun. There's shots of soldiers getting attacked by a bunch of Demogorgons. It's very, very cool. And if they're in the main character's way, I hope they get ate. Okay? I said it. And then we get the money shots. At the end of the trailer, we see Vecna's claw, and he looks different. He's red. He's not gray anymore. And his claw is much scarier, much more menacing. It looks like he just did something with it, like killed a soldier or something. Then it zooms up to his face, and he says, William! And then we see Will laying on the ground directly across from him, like, Argh. Then he says, like, I don't remember word for word, but he's like, I need your help one last time. And Will's body floats up and floats to Vecna, and they're face to face. Will's floating, Vecna's holding him. Very, very interesting. And then it ends on a shot of him kind of like touching Will's face, and it's so good. So good. Such a good trailer. I think what's happening at the end there is that it's alluding to Will being taken over in season 2, and Vecna's going to do something like that with him again. I don't know exactly what it's going to be. I've seen a lot of theories about, you know, the Eye of Vecna, which is something from D&D that they think will be pulled into the show. Very good theories. I just think it's going to be something like that. He needs Will's help for some reason. He's going to use him as a spy again, probably, and it's going to be really interesting to see what that is. And that's my breakdown of this trailer. I loved talking about it. I love talking about Stranger Things. I'm so excited for the season, and you will be getting a lot of content from me because I'm so hyper fixated on it right now. It is unbelievable, but I love it, and I love to yap about it. So go watch the trailer on your own time and have a fabulous day.